One of the people who has talked a lot during this campaign about Donald Trump is someone who used to work in his administration. John Bolton is an American diplomat who served as the U.S. National Security Advisor under Donald Trump and has been a rather sharp critic of the former president. He's also authored several books. Now, first of all, Mr. Bolton, thanks so much for your time. I can imagine you're very busy on a day like today, so thank you for making the time. And after the clip people are about to hear, as I said, you've been a sharp critic of the former president, and maybe this will explain that disdain works both ways. Listen to this.
Her and that idiot John Bolton, who was so stupid. But I loved him. You know why? He'd come into a room with me, would never say anything, and I'd be with foreign leaders, and I didn't even have to act tough because they said, look, that moron, John Bolton, he's crazy. He's the one with Dick Cheney got Bush to go into the Middle East, right? Trump is going to go to war with us. And you know what would happen? They'd give me everything I wanted because the guy's a nut job.
That's from a Trump rally in Michigan over the weekend. John Bolton is on the line. Mr. Bolton, I know you've heard that clip before. I would ask, when you first heard it, what was your reaction?
Well, it's typical of Trump's juvenile view of the world, but I'm certainly happy to think that I may have helped intimidate a few foreign dictators, enemies of the United States. That's a good thing.
What does that even mean with what he said of people, being in the room? What's he talking about as far as you're concerned?
It shows his really simplistic view of international affairs. He thinks that foreign policy and national security have to do with the personal relationships between himself, other heads of state, and individuals. And in fact, they're based on calculations of national interest and the values and the interests that different countries hold, which are really far above the way Trump does business. He doesn't have a philosophy. He doesn't do policy the way we understand that term. He looks at everything on an ad hoc, transactional basis, and primarily through the prism of what is his decision going to get for him, Donald Trump, personally, rather than for the United States.
So beyond that, if this is even beyond that, you've said in the past, I've heard you say this as well, that he is, in your opinion, unfit to be president. Beyond what you just described, why is he unfit to be president?
Because he's extremely uninformed about the world. He doesn't understand the issues that are at stake for the United States. He demonstrated this repeatedly in his first term. He came in knowing very little about how government worked, about what U.S. capabilities are, what our interests are around the world, a sporadic knowledge of history, often wrong. He didn't learn anything in the course of 4 years, as I say, because he didn't think he needed to. He thought everything was based on how well he got along with people like Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, never recognizing that they took him for what he was and thought, frankly, he was an easy mark.
So he got played, in essence, is what you're saying.
He did. I think it would be worse in a second term because he's made it clear he doesn't want people around him who are going to try and give him advice. He wants to make decisions on his own and have people carry them out. That may sound like an easier way to govern from his point of view, but from the perspective of the United States, and even from his own personal interest, it's just going to get him in trouble.
There's been a lot said in the campaign, certainly over the past couple of weeks. These accusations about Liz Cheney being a war hawk and forcing her to go out and stand in front of 9 rifles. He's accused you of being hawkish as well when it comes to that kind of stuff. He talked about the Middle East situation. But the part one of the things I don't understand is the situation where the U.S. finally tried to get its troops out of Afghanistan. Why is he linking the Democrats to that when that was something that was there when he was still in presidency?
Well, it was his plan. He and Secretary of State Pompeo negotiated it, and if Trump had won a second term, he would have withdrawn from Afghanistan, which I think was a catastrophic mistake. I think we're all at greater risk now that foreign terrorists, ISIS-K in particular, have strengthened their hand in Afghanistan. They've carried terrorist attacks out in Iran and Russia. It's entirely possible attacks in the United States are being planned now. But what Trump tried to do was divert attention to the bungling of the actual withdrawal operationally from Afghanistan in the summer of 2021 and just try and say, well, I would have done it better, which, of course, is a statement that's neither provable nor disprovable since he never had the opportunity. But make no mistake, the decision to withdraw from Afghanistan was entirely Trump's. Biden didn't have to accept it. He made a mistake in accepting it. So really, the responsibility is on both of them, and really raising grave risks for the United States and others around the world.
Speaking with John Bolton, who was the national security advisor during the Trump presidency for the first year, I would ask as well, in watching the campaign, I'm assuming you've watched this fairly closely, has anything surprised you as far as the Trump campaign is concerned, ratcheting up the fear, anything at all?
Look, I think the behavior that Trump has exhibited, let's say just in the past 30 days on the campaign trail, is the same way he behaved in the Oval Office during the time he was president. What has happened is that his inhibitions have loosened, and that the behavior that he displayed in private, he's now displaying in public. This is the real Donald Trump, and it's a mark of why I think he's not fit for office. He's showing these juvenile, uneducated tendencies, his propensity to make everything into a personal disagreement because he doesn't grasp the bigger picture.
Yet you'd think, given that, people would realize it, and I'm sure some do, but he still has, depending on what polls you believe, roughly half of America, who apparently would vote for him.
Right, that's a fact, and I think in large part is because many people, Republicans especially, are gritting their teeth and saying we don't like Trump, we're worried about him, but we fear Harris and the left wing of the Democratic Party more. That's the decision, that's the calculus that is informing their vote.
I also heard, and I think people may remember this too, the other day, just as an aside almost, during one of his rallies, said he never should have left the Oval Office, right, back in 2020, which kind of makes you think, I know he's not in it now, which is, I guess, a good thing, but it does make you wonder what will happen in the wake of this election if he, in fact, does lose. Does he accept the results, do you think?
Oh, no, I think it's essentially a certainty that he will not accept the results if he loses, and he will challenge, and we're in for a contentious period. I just think people should bear in mind, in 2020, when he did that, he was sitting behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, and he still couldn't steal the election. This time he'll be sitting by the swimming pool at Mar-a-Lago. It's quite a different picture.
I will point out, by the way, for people, that you are also not apparently a big fan of Kamala Harris. If I read right, you said the other day you'd consider not voting for either and actually spoil your ballot. Is that accurate?
No, I'm not going to spoil the ballot. In Maryland and in many other states, you can write in the name of a candidate, which is what I did in 2020. It's a protest vote. It's disturbing. I'm worried for the country, whichever one of them wins. And it's worrying that in a country of nearly 350 million people, these are the two who ended up as the Republican and Democratic nominees.
I mean, I know we said that if it was going to be Biden and Trump, but Kamala Harris, not Joe Biden. Why are you still as concerned as you are?
She has no experience in foreign policy except what she may have picked up over the last 3.5 years. She almost never talks about it. It's not clear what her views are. She comes from the left wing of the Democratic Party, and every indication is she would be what Gene Kirkpatrick once called famously a San Francisco Democrat, and I think that's the path to real trouble for the United States.
So that being the case, if you were going to look at someone, if you're going to file a protest vote, who's your nominee for president?
Well, I haven't decided yet. In 2020, I wrote in Dick Cheney because I wanted to vote for a conservative Republican. This year, Dick is backing Kamala Harris, so I've got to pick somebody else, and I'm still thinking about who that might be.
Would someone like a Liz Cheney, despite the fact she's a Republican, be someone you would consider?
Well, I was a little surprised Liz didn't run for the Republican nomination for president. She may not have gotten it, but I think she could have played an important role. I think we've got to think not just about what's going to happen in this election. Obviously, the die is cast. We'll find out the result very shortly. But thinking ahead to 2028, to try and get candidates who will return the party to the really strong position that Ronald Reagan took of peace through strength. That is coherent and succeeded in ending the Cold War, and I think in a time of increasing threats to the rest from around the world, we need a Reaganite, Thatcher kind of approach again.
I would ask, as we just get set to wrap up, the concern, of course, now, we keep seeing video now of police and troopers, et cetera, getting ready for, the results of the vote, which is troubling in and of itself. Do you think this ends well, however this election turns out? Is there reason to be fearful?
I think it's very unlikely there'll be a lot of violence. There are groups that want to cause trouble, and I think that unfortunately may happen, but I don't think it's substantial. And I don't think, frankly, people want to put up with it. So it would be an act of desperation if they did. And I just remember how unprepared the Capitol was on January the 6th. Didn't have adequate protection. This time there'll be adequate protection, maybe more than we need. I hope it's much more than we need. But given what happened before, better to take the precaution.
Just as a final question, we've seen polls change sometimes literally in the course of day to day. Given what you have seen, given taking the temperature of the election, who do you think will win? Can I ask you that question?
I literally have no idea, and I think the range of possibilities, certainly in electoral college votes, is significant. If one of the two candidates won all of the 7 battleground states by 1 point, it would be a substantial electoral college majority. That could happen, or they could split it 4-3 or 5-2. Who knows? It's going to be very close, I think.
I wonder what time of the evening Donald Trump will declare victory.
Early. He will not make the mistake, as he did in 2020, of waiting until 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm looking at about 9 o'clock, maybe.
Mr. Bolton, I want to thank you so much for your time. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
John Bolton, former national security advisor in the Trump administration.